Some teams are angling to move up. Even more are angling to move down. The 2019 NFL Draft is almost here, and NFL Nation reporters are making one prediction for every team. Scan through all 32 teams by division, or jump ahead to your team by clicking on its logo here. AFC East Buffalo Bills. Good draft depth leads Bills to trade down. General manager Brandon Beane made his mark trading up in the 2018 draft, but circumstances are different in 2019. There seems to be good depth at the top of the draft at positions of need for Buffalo: offensive tackle and defensive line. By trading down in the first round, the Bills could still tap into the talent at those positions while picking up extra picks to address other areas. Unlike last year, the Bills enter the draft without any extra selections until the fourth round. Mike Rodak. Miami Dolphins. Dolphins will pass on QB, trade down and pick DL. Miami is probably the NFL's most quarterback-needy team, but there is reason to believe the Dolphins aren't in love with this year's QB crop and are willing to wait until 2020 to take a shot at that position while building along the offensive and defensive lines in 2019. Miami general manager Chris Grier learned a lot from Bill Parcells, and he's hesitant to select quarterbacks with little college starting experience such as Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins. That, combined with the fact that the strengths of this draft, DL and OL, line up with some of Miami's biggest needs, makes the decision easier for Grier. The Dolphins have prioritized collecting 2020 picks throughout the offseason, so look for them to try to trade back to get more picks in each of the next 2 years. Cameron Wolfe. A New England Patriots 2019 NFL Draft win, Thursday to Saturday. Where? Nashville, Tennessee. How to watch? ABC, ESPN, ESPN app. The team has had some notable success by taking multiple players at the same position in a draft, and it makes sense to think receiver is the spot that could happen this year, as it is a top need. Ideally, one of those receivers, such as Georgia's Mecole Hardman, will have punt return experience and thus would fill multiple roles. Mike Rice. New York Jets. Jets will be active traders, but not in first round. Despite a desire to move down, they will stay put at No. 3 overall, but look for them to be active on days 2 and 3. With 2 third-round picks and linebacker Darren Lee on the trading block, they have the ammunition to get into the second round. GM Mike Maccagnan is on a mission to regain a second-round pick, an opposing personnel source said. Rich Cimini. AFC North. Baltimore Ravens. Ravens won't try to find C.J. Mosley's replacement in draft. The loss of Baltimore's leading tackler in free agency doesn't necessarily mean the team will take an inside linebacker in the first couple of rounds. The Ravens have young talent in Patrick Onwuezer and Kenny Young on the inside. What Baltimore lacks in the middle is experience. The more likely play for the Ravens is signing a veteran such as Zach Brown or Josh Bynes after the draft. Jamison Hensley. Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals will focus on upgrading both sides of line. While linebacker is the most obvious need, it's unlikely Devin White is going to fall into the Bengals' laps. That means they will look elsewhere instead of reaching for a pick. While the right side of the offensive line still needs help, don't rule out an early defensive lineman either. If the right one is there, that is certainly in play with the 11th overall pick. Catherine Durrell. Play 114 NFL Draft Profile. Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver is a great interior defender with violent hands and elite first-step quickness. Cleveland Browns. Browns won't move back into first round much as John Dorsey might like to get back up and get a player he likes late in the first round. The odds do not favor that happening. The Browns will wind up looking at Odell Beckham Jr. as their first round pick, and they will take the best player available, likely on defense, with their second round choice. Pat McMahon on Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers will try to strike second-round WR gold again. Steelers will draft a receiver in the second round for the third consecutive year. The franchise has had too much success finding receiver talent outside of the first round not to take a swing on day 2. Pittsburgh has the do-it-all playmaker in Juju Smith-Schuster, a still-developing deep threat in James Washington, and needs an infusion of open-field quickness and speed with Antonio Brown gone. South Carolina's Deebo Samuel could be the ideal fit. Jeremy Fowler, AFC South. Houston Texans will give Deshaun Watson another target in paper. Houston has a dynamic offense when its receivers can stay healthy. While the Texans have been able to count on star receiver DeAndre Hopkins, wideouts Will Fuller and Keke Coutee have had problems staying on the field. Fuller is still recovering from a torn ACL and Coutee's hamstrings bothered him throughout his rookie season, so Houston will provide quarterback Deshaun Watson some insurance and add another receiver. Sarah Barshop. Indianapolis Colts Draft Academy documents the journey of 6 prospects: Nick Bosa, Marquise Brown, Drew Luck, Tyree Jackson, Jarrett Stidham and Josh Jacobs. Watch on ESPN. Colts will use a second-round pick on a receiver. The Colts signed veteran Devin Funchess in free agency to possibly be the second receiver to go with T.Y. Hilton. Signing Funchess eases the pressure to use their first-round pick on a wideout, but receiver is still a position of need for the Colts, who have 2 second-round picks. Deon Cain will basically be a rookie in 2019 after his real rookie season ended because of a torn ACL in the first preseason game. Darius Fountain, also a rookie in 2018, spent most of the season on the practice squad. Mike Wells. Jacksonville Jaguars will draft 2 tight ends. The team signed Jeff Swaim in free agency, but he had only 26 catches in 10 weeks before a wrist injury ended his 2018 season. The other 2 tight ends on the roster are James O'Shaughnessy and Ben Koyack. That's not exactly a feared group of pass catchers. The Jaguars could take one in the first round, T.J. Hawkinson at number 7, but it's a deep group of tight ends and there will still be good players available if they wait until the middle rounds. Getting help for Nick Foles is a priority. Michael Duraco. Tennessee Titans will attack the middle of the lineup. Tennessee has been linked to the top centers and guards during the draft process. The Titans have also done extensive homework on a lot of the top interior defensive linemen. Under coach Mike Vrabel, the Titans are focused on establishing a physical presence. Adding beef on the interior on both sides of the ball would be a big step. Turn Davenport. AFC West. Denver Broncos will be forced into taking another tight end. The Broncos have used 3 draft picks in the past 4 years on tight ends: Jeff Hoyerman 2015, Jake Butt 2017, and Troy Fumagalli 2018, and all 3 have missed at least 1 season with injuries. Butt has now missed most of his first 2 NFL seasons after being held out of his rookie season recovering from an ACL tear in his final college game, and then he suffered another ACL tear in 2018. Offenses are exploiting tight end matchups throughout the league, and Denver would like to join that production party. Say if the Broncos don't dive in with the no. 10 pick, and Iowa's T.J. Hawkinson is the only Tay on the board worth that pick. Look for them to take a look later on at prospects such as San Diego State's Kahale Warring, Mississippi's Dawson Knox, or Texas A. Jeff Legwold. Kansas City Chiefs won't ignore offense this year. The Chiefs will have a more balanced draft than last year, when they took defensive players with their top 5 picks. They have too many needs, now and in the future, on the offensive side of the ball. The Chiefs can use help at wide receiver, running back, tight end and on the offensive line. Adam Tyker. Los Angeles Chargers will free up their pass rushers by picking a DTTHE. Bolts have only 3 defensive tackles on the roster in Brandon Mabin, Justin Jones and T.Y. McGill, so it should be a position they target early in the draft. They need an interior pass rusher with a profile similar to Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, a player who can push the pocket, helping talented edge rushers Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram get to the quarterback more consistently. Eric D. Williams. Oakland Raiders will hit their favorite fish and Holyfield. Raiders will trade back to acquire more picks. The question is when. because while they do have 4 picks among the top 35 selections, the Raiders are shut out between no. 36 and number 105. New general manager Mike Mayock lamented that fact recently, essentially saying his favorite stretches from number 20 to no. 60. I'd love to get a couple more picks in there, he said. I just think we have a lot of holes that need to be filled. I think that's a really good place to go fishing. Paul Gutierrez, NFC East. Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys will pick an RB to back up Elliott. The Cowboys will pick a running back in the draft, but it won't come in the second round. One of the holes Dallas has not filled in the offseason is finding a backup to Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys had 3 running backs to the star on national visits, with Alabama's Damian Harris the highest rated. But with Elliott expected to get almost all of the significant work, using a second-round pick on a runner would not be the most economical use of the team's top pick. From the 3rd round on, however, a runner is more palatable, and 2 names to keep an eye on are Texas A. Todd Archer. 2019 NFL Draft. Football Outsiders projects the top draft prospects at key positions. They currently have 12 selections, but general manager Dave Gettleman will use some of that draft capital to move up at some time in the 58 picks between their current 2nd and 3rd round selections. Jordan Rowan on Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles will trade out of the no. 25 spot. Executive Vice President of Football Operations Howie Roseman has stayed put in the 1st round in just 3 of the 8 drafts he has overseen. If a top-end pass rusher falls into the Eagles' orbit, it wouldn't be a shock if they slide up a few spots to snare him. Tim McManus. Play 117 as Daniel Jones, the heir apparent to Tom Brady. Former Duke QB Daniel Jones spent 3 years learning from QB whisperer David Cutcliffe. Now Jones enters the NFL draft as a potential first-rounder. Washington Redskins. Daniel Jones will be a first-round QB target. If the Redskins draft a quarterback in the 1st round, it'll be Daniel Jones. That also assumes Dwayne Haskins will be gone by the time they pick at 15. Jones is more consistent than Drew Lock with his mechanics, and therefore the Redskins would know more about what they'd be getting. He operates well in the quick game concepts Washington likes to use. There's no guarantee by any means that the Redskins take Jones. They also will be aggressive looking for playmakers, whether via trades or drafting an impact defensive player. John Keim. NFC North. Chicago Bears. Bears will draft a running back. Chicago signed veteran Mike Davis in free agency, but the Bears still need more depth at the position after losing Jordan Howard, traded to Philadelphia, and Benny Cunningham, signed with Jacksonville, in the offseason. The Bears don't currently have a pick until the 3rd round, but general manager Ryan Pace is adept at finding running backs later in the draft. Tariq Cohen. 2017, Jeremy Langford. 2015, and Howard. 2016, were all day 3 RB picks under Pace. Jeff Dickerson. Detroit Lions. Lions will make a trade, but probably not on day 1. Lions general manager Bob Quinn has been pretty open about saying he's willing to listen to trade offers, and if the right one comes up at no. 8. Unless, say, Josh Allen or Quinn Williams were on the board, he'd at least consider it. But at some point during the 3-day draft, he'll make a move. He's been aggressive throughout his career as a general manager, including trading up last year for Kerryon Johnson and Deshaun Hand in separate deals. Keep an eye on the 2nd round, where the Lions historically make moves, although it hasn't always gone so well, with Kyle Van Noy and Mikel Leshoure being recent non-Quinn examples. Michael Rothstein. Green Bay Packers. Almost a lock that Packers won't pick QB on first 2 days. The Packers won't take a quarterback with any of their first 3 picks. That means no Drew Lock, the Missouri star they had in for a pre-draft visit. Not at number 12, not at number 30, and not even at number 44, if he were somehow to slip that far. Any quarterback taken in 2019 would probably hit free agency before Aaron Rodgers is done, so it's not the time to select his heir apparent. The Luck visit was subterfuge, to borrow a word from GM Brian Gutekunst. Rob Demovsky. Minnesota Vikings. Vikings won't take an offensive lineman at no. 18. This isn't that bold in theory, especially if general manager Rick Spielman thinks the team would be reaching to draft someone they could possibly trade back for and land late in the first round. But if Minnesota doesn't take an offensive lineman early, I predict the first-round pick will be used on a tight end. While it feels unlikely that T.J. Hawkinson would fall to 18, if Noah Fant is available, the Vikings could look to draft him as a replacement for Kyle Rudolph, especially if they move the 29-year-old on Thursday to acquire more draft capital and relieve their salary cap situation. Courtney Cronin. NFC South. Atlanta Falcons. Falcons will move up, but not in first round. The Falcons will use one or more of their 9 draft picks to move up in the draft. Not saying this will happen in the first round with the 14th overall selection, but general manager Thomas Dimitroff has been willing to trade up or back throughout the years. There might be a player in the second or third rounds worth moving up for. Von McClure. Carolina Panthers. Panthers will pick a quarterback on day 2. The Panthers haven't selected a quarterback in any round since making Cam Newton the first pick of the 2011 draft. It is time, with Newton rehabbing from shoulder surgery and his contract up for renewal after the 2020 season. It's time to get insurance for the short-term and potentially long-term. David Newton. New Orleans Saints. Saints will replenish on the offensive line. The Saints have had one of the NFL's best offensive lines for the past 2 seasons. They need to start replenishing because Pro Bowl center Max Unger just retired and Pro Bowl guards Andrus Peat and Larry Warford are scheduled to become free agents in the next 2 years. Look for a versatile round 2 prospect, such as Kansas State's Dalton Risner or Mississippi State's Elgton Jenkins, who could start out as a swing backup. Mike Triplett. Play 055 NFL Draft Profile. Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat is a flexible athlete out of Mississippi State with the ability to bend and frequently get offensive tackles off balance. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs will pick a pass rusher or Lithe. Bucs will select a defensive lineman, edge rusher in either of the first 2 rounds, possibly with their first-round pick. The quality of the talent is simply too good to pass up. Gerald McCoy could be finished with the Bucs, and who knows how many more double-digit sack seasons Jason Pierre-Paul can produce. They'll absolutely jump at the chance to grab Quinnen Williams or Josh Allen if either falls to them at no. 5, and they'll strongly consider Ed Oliver, even if Devin White is still on the board. Players such as Montez Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, Rashawn Gary, Dexter Lawrence and Jalen Ferguson are also options should the Bucs trade down from no. 5 or opt to address the position in round 2. Jenna Lane. NFC West. Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals won't posit a good offer for no. 1 pick. The Cardinals will try to trade out of the first pick, and just might succeed. If the Cardinals can get what they want for the no. 1 overall selection, I don't think they'll hesitate to make the trade, stockpile picks and try to improve on their 3-13 record with depth. Trading for picks would make sense because Arizona has needs at wide receiver, offensive line, tight end and on the defensive line. Josh Weinfuss. Los Angeles Rams. Rams will try to add picks to address both lines. The Rams will attempt to trade down, out of the 31st overall selection, to collect more picks later in the draft. They must find a young offensive lineman who is capable of contributing immediately after losing left guard Roger Saffold in free agency and declining the option on center John Sullivan's contract. They also have a need on the defensive line, with tackle Ndamukong Suh a free agent and unlikely to return, and must find a player also capable of contributing early. Last year, general manager Les Snead showed a knack for trading down and collecting picks as the Rams finished 2018 with 11 selections. They'll start Thursday's draft with 7 picks, but don't be surprised if they add a few more. The Rams also have needs at linebacker and in the secondary. Lindsey Theory. San Francisco 49ers. 49ers will draft a receiver on day 2. The Niners missed on a trade for Odell Beckham Jr. and followed by signing veteran Jordan Matthews, but they still have serious work to do at wideout. In 2018, Niners receivers combined for 152 receptions, 28th in the NFL for 1,990 yards, 29th. This draft is lacking in terms of top receivers, so it's hard to imagine San Francisco taking one in the first round, barring a trade down or two from their perch at No. 2. But there appears to be no shortage of options who could be available in the second and third rounds. The 49ers have done their homework on most of the players expected to go in that range, bringing in many of them for pre-draft visits. With pick nos. 36 and 67 on Friday, the Niners should be well positioned to get one of their favorite pass catchers, even if they look to move back and acquire more picks before grabbing their guy. Nick Wagoner, Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks will take an edge rusher with their first pick. That position went from one of their top needs to by far their top need after they traded Frank Clark, who was their only edge player with double-digit sack ability. It's a good thing this draft is loaded with defensive linemen. The Seahawks could even move back from No. 21 in order to add to their pick total if they believe like a blue-chip edge rusher would still be there a few selections later. Either way, there's an excellent chance they address that need in the first round. Brady Henderson.